Well, it's morning and the time is now approaching 9:20 and we are still in the hotel. Why are we not most of the way to Hornillos yet? The reason for that is that last thing, we decided that it might be a good idea to get some cash before heading out onto the meseta, because there were lots of little villages, we don't know how much we'll need cash. We went to the bread shop last night to get some pain au chocolat and to get some croissants actually for lunch today, and it was cash only, so that's in a city. So we were quite surprised by that, so we thought we'll go and get some cash, and they told us there was a cash point just around the corner at the Santander bank. So we went to the bank and Andrew put his card in and the card got stuck and we couldn't get it out, and this was about 9 o'clock at night. And the gentleman, basically, there was somebody outside who said that you could press the bell and there was somebody in the bank that would come and advise us. And a gentleman came out and basically said there was nothing he could do, but that somebody would be there at 9 o'clock in the morning and that we could get the card back then. So we've just been to the bank now. We waited until 9 o'clock in the morning and a lady came out, bang on 9 o'clock. There were a queue of people, and it was quite interesting that there was a lady walking around and she was saying something to Andrew which he really didn't understand, but she seemed a little bit upset. And she was saying basically that she was ahead of us in the queue, even though she'd been walking around. So I sort of picked up on what was going on there, and it was all fine, but completely different to English style queuing where we all get in a neat line. There it's like everybody just knows, I was here first. Anyway, the lady came out of the bank and said that she was having a lot of trouble and she couldn't get it out and it was completely stuck in, and she was probably going to have to phone a technician, and she didn't know when the technician would arrive. It might not be this morning, and we were sort of thinking, oh heck. So we went into the bank and talked with her a bit more, and she went away again. She came back with the card. Actually, the gentleman we'd spoken to last night had the card and gave it back to Andrew. And then she came up and she scratched her arm fighting with this machine. It was bleeding, trying to get his card back. So they were really, really lovely. They said he mustn't use his card in a machine again. So we tried to use the Santander contactless thing, but you have to have a code and you have to have an app, and we haven't got a Santander app, so we don't know what to do. And we can't get cash from the hotel because they don't do that. But it'll all be okay. The Camino will provide. And yeah, we need to get on the road. Fortunately, it's a coolish day still, and we haven't got too far to go. So that's what's been going on. Because the people that started the Camino kind of back in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, a lot of them are now having a day off in Burgos. So the people that have had a day off in Burgos already will be the people that are walking now that maybe we'll get to know. But of course we won't get to know them today because they'll be way ahead of us. So that's where we're up to. We'll be staying at La Casa del Abuelo in Hornillos del Camino. And I spoke to them last night and confirmed that we will be there and that the room that we've booked we definitely want. And they were really nice. So we'll get on the way. Just been looking in this little souvenir shop, and I might have done something very silly in that I have actually bought a little chest of El Cid. So now I'm going to carry it on the whole Camino. Well, we just passed the Solar del Cid, the supposed house, the location of the house of El Cid, and we're now going on through this archway. It's new territory. Again, it looks as though it's been snowing because there are these seeds everywhere. So I think I'm probably right in saying that this is the section where in the movie The Way, Martin Sheen's character is saying goodbye, and the others that he's with are saying goodbye to the Romani family, that the boy had stolen his backpack and given it back and he was having to apologise. And I think it was filmed here. Hermitage of San Amaro Peregrino. Oh, how pretty this is! It's the University of Burgos. Huh. So the Camino is now there. The Camino's going to go that way. And there are the gates. I think they said goodbye to that family. So that's more the University of Burgos, slightly less ancient. That's the Faculty of Sciences, so I suppose it fits. I think the other was the Faculty of Law. Just show you where we come from. The statue there, down there. Puerto Romano, I think it says. Tardajos, which is where we're thinking we'll stop for coffee. 7. Castro Jerez, where we'll be tomorrow night. 50. Ruta de Peregrinos. Peregrinación, I think it was actually, wasn't it? I think there's another Peregrino, probably, over there, that gentleman. I'm surprised we are seeing people this late. I would have thought we were quite unusual at 25 to 11 now, because we had such a slow start. What with the bank. We're now almost at the end of the built-up area of Burgos, heading out into the countryside. The gentleman ahead of us has a real spring in his step. He can't be very young, but he's fairly motoring along. I think he might have fresh legs, either that or he's a triathlete or some such. Got quite a large pack. Andrew stopped to take photos. It's usually me. See a little stream. I did not know what to write, so I wrote this. Imaginative graffiti. So I've been feeling a bit as though we're the only ones leaving so late because of the card problems at the bank and so on. But actually, and I've sort of felt surprised when we've seen other pilgrims, I shouldn't feel surprised because Burgos is a city. And I suppose a lot of people have kind of, if there's any kind of delay, they'll go to Burgos to have it resolved if they're near, in that area. People with medical problems, maybe they need to be seen at 9 o'clock in the morning, or anything else, maybe if you need to send something from Correo, the post office, or replace something and the shop was shut yesterday, so you have to wait till 9 o'clock. Could be all sorts of reasons. Of course there are going to be other pilgrims. We're not the only ones. So once we've navigated the various underpasses, well, lots of main roads are passing one another here after this. I think we've basically got a pretty much free run onto the meseta. One more major road to go under up ahead. And then we're free! The last one before I think we'll be on the meseta. We were actually talking, Andrew was asking where the meseta actually begins, and I thought it was a sort of gradual thing that you don't suddenly arrive at the meseta. But Andrew was saying they had the idea that it is actually a raised up area that is distinct from the area around it. I thought it was more that we were already on quite high ground, but it sort of just becomes more rural and more flat. So we shall see. So this is explaining a little about this area. It talks about the Rio Arlazón, which is the river through Burgos, and that it has its origin, the source, up on the Pico San Millán, 2,131 meters. So here it will show Buen Camino.
Buen Camino.
There are different ways of doing it. Little cart system. So we're currently, I guess we've just navigated this area here where the road crosses, and we're probably going to stop in Tardajos here, but possibly Rabe de las Calzadas, and then we'll be spending the night here at Hornillos del Camino, where the people that we were just speaking to who are behind us are also staying. Tomorrow we'll go on to Castor and then we'll continue beyond that. A lot of people like to stay here, but it's a long walk if you go from Burgos to there. Some people break it up and they don't stay in Burgos at all. They stay in one of these places and then walk to Antanas. If you're not so concerned about a night in Burgos, that's quite a good option. I don't know whether you'll be able to see, but there are lots of seeds just flying around in the air. I just breathed in and one went up my nose. It's almost like snow. Well, there's nothing for you to see. However, up here we've just been watching a hen harrier fly around. I had a good look at it as it flew over here. I was looking at it through the monocular. It was a male, quite distinct, with the light bluey grey wings and then the dark tips. Hawk head, you know, unmistakably a hen harrier. So that's nice to see. I don't know how endangered they are in Spain. I know obviously they were overhunted in England, in the UK. My understanding, I'd have to check, but that is that it's pretty widespread that they're endangered. Do you know, Andrew?
The hen harrier?
Yeah, they're endangered in Europe as well. Do you know?
No, because I don't know how widespread ground shooting is in Europe.
Yeah, it often is connected to ground shooting, of course, because hen harriers prey on the ground birds that, certainly in the UK, people are wanting to hunt. And so they're effectively protecting them by shooting the hen harriers in the UK. Here's a stork flying in. Maybe you'll see this. Flying across the street. So we're entering into Tardajos. We're just talking about whether we're going to stop here or in Rabe de las Calzadas, which is the next town over. It's barely 1.5, 2 kilometres. Not barely 2 kilometres, a little over 1.5. Quite light in a way to get to Rabe, because it's over halfway then, and psychologically that would be better. Born in Tardajos on the 21st of May 1868, precursor of the cinematographer, so the movie camera. The word is the sound where an idea becomes flesh. That very kind gentleman just pointed out that the signs over there on the albergue, which point to a cafeteria and an albergue, are not the yellow arrows to follow. There are other yellow arrows which direct you down here, and this is the way to go. There's always somebody ready to put you right within moments of you going wrong. There's some pilgrims behind us that we saw in Arguez, at the same restaurant that we were at. The sign here says it's a fishing reserve. One thing that's different at this time of year, they're very keen on maintaining the grass. And the result of this at times is that the air smells so strongly of freshly cut grass. To me, it's a slightly different scent of freshly cut grass to what I'm used to in the UK. It's so strong, it smells of peas. Like fresh peas, garden peas, but really beautifully fresh garden peas, or sweet peas almost. It's really pleasant. Probably not great if you've got hay fever, I suppose. Well, we're entering Rabe de la Calzadas, twinned with Santa Maria a Monte in Pisa, in Italy. We've got an elite residence, the church, there's a museum over here, Hostel La Puente, bar down there, town hall, albergues, and a monastery up that way, a convent. Utrea. We've found our lunch spot. Hostel La Fuente bar restaurant. And there's the fountain. And there's a lovely little dog. This is a really nice spot.
It is, it's lovely. It looks like a nice albergue as well, actually.
There's the yellow arrow, I was just looking for it. 476 kilometers to Santiago.
It's coming down.
It is. I was sitting at that cafe just then. I had a long conversation with an absolutely wonderful man called Juan, and he spends a lot of time, because he's done Caminos himself in the past, he spends as much time as he can just coming out onto the Camino for day walks, because it's not possible for him to do more, but just giving out things as gifts to pilgrims, mostly poems in Spanish. So I've got a poem in Spanish, which is fitting because I'm a writer myself and I've published poetry and work within poetry. And his story I almost feel like it's not my story to tell, but he's done the Camino, the whole of it himself, in the past. He did the whole of the Camino Frances to Finisterre in 30 days. He says he walks fast. He'll walk 30 kilometers in 5 hours. He's got his health. He hasn't got much in the way of... We didn't then have any money, and people helped him. And he was talking a lot about how it's hard. It's been hard since the financial collapse. He's in his 50s now, and trying to work enough to get a pension. Normally you'd be thinking about retiring at that age, and it just hasn't been possible for him for various reasons, because of the life that I think he had when he was very young. It's been difficult. And he told me a lot more, but it was actually really moving and has kind of inspired me quite a bit. But just a really lovely man, and really interesting to talk to him, and I think absolutely inspirational. I mean, he's just getting out here and loves being outdoors. He said, I've got my health. Yeah, it was just really lovely. It was a lovely spot. Rabe de las Calzadas. So this, I think, is our first real taste of the open meseta, perhaps. Rolling hills and just a pale track through it. I'm sure it'll change along the way, but this is exactly what I imagined it would be. Albeit it was hard to imagine it being green, a little. Maybe it's flatter further on. We're absolutely loving this. I've just seen another hen harrier flying sort of to our left. It's disappeared off towards our right now. It's really nice having the little monocular, because you can kind of whip it out and quickly actually identify things. And I think and previously we'd seen large birds silhouetted in the sky. You have a bit of a stab at it, but you can't see the details with the monocular. As soon as you can see the coloration of the wings, for example. But even if you're not keen on birds, I think being able to see other things that are in the distance at times. I mean, I used it inside the cathedral yesterday because there's a figure that is holding a copy of a plan of Burgos. We couldn't quite make it out, but with the monocular I could actually see exactly what they meant. So I'm really glad I've got that with me. But here it's like paradise. There are just skylarks. Like every tree seems to have a skylark in it. And again, if you're not keen on birds, maybe it doesn't matter, but the sound of it does. It's part of the whole experience. I imagine at different times of year, perhaps you'd hear different birds. There'd be different colours, different crops. In the film of the way, I didn't think they'd film much around here, but this looks familiar to me, just the shape of this bend. I might be imagining it. There are many bends and many of them look similar. But, yeah, the part where they're all together and they're just starting to walk together as a group with, I can't remember the name of the writer in it, with him. Yeah. But I might just be imagining it. I hadn't expected so many sort of little nooks and twisty bits on the Meseta. Maybe the rest of it won't be quite so much like this, but it's really lovely. So now that we're really quite high up, the view looking back towards Burgos is really quite something. And I can hear a cuckoo in the distance again. I've heard so many cuckoos. I don't hear anything like that many in the UK anymore. We've been on the high section for a while and it looks as though it's about to drop down a bit. I had a dream a few weeks ago that I got to the Meseta and it wasn't the way I imagined. It was higher up and we got to a high point and looked down and it was sort of like cliffs just dropping away and there were cliffs facing us. And I whipped out my camera and started filming and realised that I hadn't been filming at all and what on earth was I doing here in Spain at the Meseta, and I hadn't filmed anything, and I was talking to you and I was saying, I'm sorry I haven't filmed anything yet. Anyway, it wasn't too unlike this in that this looks like it is a nice gradual path down and not a sheer cliff face, but we have some rocky, what would you call them? Escarpments, perhaps. Hillsides, really, facing us. There's a little skylark on the top of that pile of rocks there. The people ahead look as though they've got either a little cart or maybe a pram with them and they're wheeling it down the hill. So I'm thinking that that is probably Hornillos in the distance there. There are things to be said about the flowers and the colours. See, it's not necessarily that they're all particularly unusual flowers, but I mean thistle, poppies, and then over here, these yellow flowers. I'm sure I should know what they are, but I don't. And then thistles, again, and all of this wheat. And as you're walking along, maybe it doesn't come across so well on the camera, I don't know, I hope it does, but you just have all these little flickers of colour out of the corner of your eye the whole time. it's yellow and then it's red and then it's white and purple and different shades of green. Haven't seen many butterflies today. We're just approaching Hornillos now. We were just talking about aches and pains and how we're doing. For me, one of the problems I've had which has surprised me is that I've got a sort of, where it's rubbed my hip, the backpack has rubbed my hip and the skin has sort of, basically it's gone slightly raw. And I wasn't sure what to do about it last night. So I put some cream on it that I've got for that kind of thing. Just chafing basically, but it's strange because this isn't a new backpack to me. It's a little bit heavier than I had on the last Camino, but I did use it when I went to France. And I had a lot of stuff in it then. And I have done some walking with it, with quite a lot in it. And I was wearing the exact same clothes as I wore when I did the Camino last time, so I know those clothes are fine, and yet still I've got this chafing on my hip. So not knowing what best to do with it, I just stuck a Compeed over it and it just about covered it. Last time I had chafing, I had it on the back of my ankles once, and I used a Compeed on that and that got me through. That was on the last Camino as well. So other than that, I'm kind of sore at basically the small of my back, muscles at the top of my glutes, basically, the top, small of my back. There's somebody else filming now, he's talking into his camera as he cycles, that's good to see. Yeah, legs a bit sore, feet are feeling it a little bit. Fine, quite happy to keep going. But I am feeling it a little, in particular in the small of my back. So my plan is to go and get that under the shower and see if I can massage it off a bit. How are you feeling, Andreas?
I'm alright, a little bit stiff, but...
He's alright, but a little bit... Where are you sore?
Tops of my legs, but I'm not stiffening up so far, so...
Tops of the legs. That's the place, tops of the legs. For me, it's the back. Is it the back or the front for you?
The back.
The back.
And the side, actually.
Before I came out, I was trying to work on my glutes and hamstrings because I know that that's probably been a weak point in the past. I feel it at the back of my knee quite often before I feel it anywhere else. And I think maybe as a result of that, I'm feeling slightly overworked glutes from before I came, which, yeah, that's always tricky to get quite right. Anyway, we're coming into Hornillos now. So the little path just up there is where we came from. How all of this greenery and all the seeds still floating in the air, it just suddenly gives out onto the village. Little bridge. I can see in Albergue the meeting point ahead. I've read about that place. I know a lot of people stay there. Everything you need as soon as you arrive. In here, they sell everything. Bread, chocolate, soup, Camino shells, cerveza, water, whatever. Here is the Sol a Sol. I think that's the one that, I think it was Emilio Estevez's son married a lady and they bought that place. Here is the meeting point. Another one here, El Alfar de Hornillos. What else have we got? La Casa del Abuelo, that's where we are, straight ahead with the shell on it. And then, actually it's over, I don't know if it's over 2 buildings or just 1. Well, we're now in La Casa del Abuelo, which is the grandfather's house. Really, really nice place. They've got a lovely eating area outside, really nice people. I had to pay by PayPal the lack of cash is going to be a problem, I think. But hopefully we'll be able to get around it most of the time. Most of our reservations are booking.com, but I have tried at times to use the places directly because I like to do that. Anyway, here they're not going to have enough pillows a lot of the time, so I'm starting to have to use my sleep system. I thought I'd show you what I've got. So this is the bedroom, and we've got one extra pillow. Andrew actually likes an extra pillow as well, but it's a really low little pillow. So I have this system, which is the Thermarest neoair extra light, which is a really, really lightweight one. It's not self-inflating. There is a bag that it comes with that you use to inflate it rather than using your mouth or anything else, because of course then bacteria builds up in it. So that's a pump sack that comes with it. And then I have this Thermarest Trekker chair kit, which is the orange thing that I put it into. So I'm going to inflate it now, and I'll show you the system that I use. And now here it is inflated. So basically this clasps together. It's what makes it upright. And it turns it into a chair. People like them for camping and days out, because you've always got a chair, and they're pretty tough. But this particular type is very, very lightweight. They're not the cheapest, but they are, for me, it's the most that I could carry. So basically, I'm like a walking advert for Thermarest at this point, which I don't mean to be, but I also have one of their compressible pillows. It's the small size, and I find that really comfy because it just keeps my neck sort of supported, which, with the problem I have with my jaw, that's really helpful. It's a really good pillow. It's full of sort of shredded memory foam, and I carry it in an Exped ultralight bag, the pillow. So with that and this, it's a good system for me because I have to sleep in a slightly upright position. And in Spain, in places like this, basically the pillows you get are really, really they don't give you much support if you've got any problems with your neck or your back. So that is my solution. And this, you can adjust it so that it's sort of more flat, it's more upright, whatever you want. So over there, beyond the laundry, is the house of La Casa del Abuelo, which is where we're staying. Our room is at the front of it, though. All the seeds in the air still. And over here, there's a large garden. They obviously get some sort of large bird coming in because the dog was desperately trying to get to it earlier. And I asked if it was a stork, and they said no, it's something else. It's a great big one, big fat one. So, don't know what that was. So even though it's almost time for dinner, and they serve dinner from early, I'm eating the croissant that we bought in Burgos yesterday because we didn't stop to eat lunch earlier. It's a really nice part of the day. It's got really sunny now. So I don't know whether it's going to come out that every so often the seeds which are flying around really take off and it is like a blizzard. We're happy being outside. It's nice and not too cool, not warm, but we're just about right. My cough is playing up a bit, and it's not COVID. It's, I think, some sort of allergy, but it takes off sometimes, and it's a bit embarrassing. Yeah, but you're not really seeing the seeds, so maybe I'll try and film that if it happens again. We seem to be in the most sheltered spot here, but also it is a sort of hurricane of seeds sometimes. While I'm still here, and we're waiting to have our dinner, by the way. We've ordered hamburgers from the place we're staying at, La Casa del Abuelo. I looked up the bird that I saw earlier, and I don't know whether you could make it out very well on the video, but it had a grey head and sort of stripes, black stripes on its face, and russet-coloured wings, and sort of striation on the wings. It was, I hope you can see this, it was a rock bunting. So I haven't seen one of those before, but that is what it was, rock bunting. So there we go, the little snippet. They obviously exist around here. I was reading there are lots of different birds around here that some people see. So maybe we'll see even more unusual ones. A nightingale, yeah, but there are nightjars as well. Yeah, and then it would be nice to see an eagle, wouldn't it? But I don't know whether we'll see one of those. Various types of buzzard, kites. Yeah. So I just like seeing them actually. I mean, it doesn't have to be rare for me. I just like the fact that they're around. It's life going on around you. Our burgers have come. Say to me, you are a ninja. So we met this group of brilliant hikers on the Camino who are doing like 40 kilometers some days, but really close together, and they've just got to know each other. So I'm going to introduce you because we've been chatting with them. We've got Micah. I got it wrong, I'm sorry. Micah.
Okay.
Odie. Benjamin. And Christophe. Yeah. And then Andrew's over here. There we go. And yeah, you three are the three musketeers, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And D'Artagnan.
There is Athos, Porthos, and Aramis. I'm D'Artagnan because I'm the more older.
D'Artagnan was younger.